The bridge of the Vengeance was the largest room in the entire star system. It was made of black metal and bright glass. The walls were cold, and the air smelled like ozone. At the center of the room stood Admiral Ken. He was a tall man with a hard face. He wore a black uniform with silver buttons. He looked like a statue carved from stone. He did not move. He only watched the giant screen in front of him. Outside the ship, space was dark. But in the center of the darkness hung a blue and green planet. It was a beautiful world. It had oceans and white clouds. It looked peaceful. But Admiral Ken did not see peace. He saw a target. He saw a prize. Behind him, hundreds of crew members worked at their desks. They pushed buttons and typed on screens. No one spoke. The only sound was the low hum of the engines. This was the Krillorian hegemony. They were the strongest power in the galaxy. They did not talk. They did not laugh. They only obeyed. Commander J walked up to the Admiral. J was the tactical officer. He was younger than Ken, but he had the same cold eyes. He held a tablet in his hand. "We are ready, Admiral," J said. His voice was flat. "The fleet is in position. All weapons are charged." Ken did not turn around. He kept looking at the blue planet. "How many ships?" 3,000 heavy cruisers, J reported. 500 destroyers. And we are here in the Vengeance. It is the largest ship ever built. No one can stop us. Ken nodded his head once. "Good. The planet has no army. They have no shields. It will be an easy victory. We will take their resources, and we will move on." "It is efficient," Jay agreed. "We will begin the bombardment in 1 hour." Ken finally turned around. He looked at the rows of workers. "You have done well. Today, the hegemony grows stronger." At the back of the bridge, near the wall of sensors, sat Lieutenant May. She was young and thin. She had short black hair and round glasses. She stared at her screen very intently. Her screen was different from the others. It showed a map of the whole star system. It showed dots of light for every ship. May liked her job. She was good at seeing small things. While other people looked at the big planet, she looked at the empty space around it. She watched for danger. But right now, everything was quiet. The hegemony fleet formed a giant net of metal around the planet. Nothing could get in. Nothing could get out. But then, May saw something. She blinked her eyes behind her glasses. She tapped the screen. "That is strange," she whispered to herself. A small red light appeared at the edge of her map. It was very far away. It was near the asteroid belt. It was not moving fast. "What is it, Lieutenant?" a voice asked. May jumped in her seat. She looked up. It was Ensign Ben. He was holding a cup of water. He was standing near her station, taking a break. "I do not know," May said. She pointed at the red dot. The sensors picked up a signature. "It is very weak." Ben leaned over her shoulder to look. "Is it a rock?" "No," May said. "It has a shape. But it is strange. It is small. Very small." Ben laughed quietly. "Maybe it is a comet." "Comets do not have engines," May said. She typed faster on her keyboard. "I am trying to get a visual. It is hard because it is so far away." On the main screen, Admiral Ken was still talking to Commander J. They did not notice the small red light at the back of the room. They were too busy thinking about their victory. Bring the main guns online, Ken ordered. Target the capital city. Yes, Admiral, Jay said. May worked quickly. She was a good officer. She wanted to make sure there were no mistakes. She adjusted the sensors. She cleaned the signal. Slowly, the blurry image on her screen became clear. Her mouth opened slightly. Ben, she said. Look at this. Ben looked. He frowned. What is that? It is a ship, May said. It cannot be a ship, Ben said. It is too small. It looks like a pile of garbage. The image on the screen showed a blocky shape. It was not smooth like the Krillorian ships. It was not shiny. It looked gray and rusty. It had solar panels that looked like they were taped together. It had a main body that looked like a metal box. It floated awkwardly in space. It looked like it would fall apart if someone touched it. It is definitely a ship, May said. But I have never seen a design like that. It is not hegemony. It is not from any of the slave races. Maybe it is an old probe, Ben suggested. Something left from 100 years ago. Maybe, May said. But she felt worried. Her instinct told her that something was wrong. Why was a ship here now? Why was it hiding in the asteroid belt? Is it sending a signal? Ben asked. May checked the communication logs. No. No radio signals. No distress call. It is just, sitting there. Look, Ben said, pointing to the screen. It is turning. The little ship on the screen slowly rotated. It was not turning towards the planet. It was turning towards the Vengeance. Admiral Ken needs to know, May said. She stood up. She walked quickly to the center of the bridge. Her heart beat faster. She knew she should not interrupt, but this was her job. She stopped a few steps away from the Admiral. She waited for him to notice her. Commander Jay saw her first. He looked annoyed. Lieutenant, why are you away from your station? Sir, May said. She saluted quickly. I have a contact. At the edge of the system. Ken turned his head slowly. A contact? We are expecting no one. Yes, sir. It is a ship. It is small, but it is there. Jay sighed. A ship out here? Impossible. Our perimeter is secure. I can see it on the sensors, sir, May insisted. It just appeared. Show me, Ken said. May walked to the main hologram table in the middle of the room. She typed a command. The giant map of the fleet disappeared. A new image appeared. It showed the empty space and the asteroids. In the center, there was the little gray ship. Commander Jay looked at it and laughed. This is what you interrupted us for. It looks like a garbage scow. Admiral Ken stared at the image. He did not laugh. His eyes were cold. Identify it, he ordered. I cannot, sir, May said. The database has no match. The design is very primitive. It has no shields. I read no energy weapons. The hull is made of basic alloys. Primitive, Ken said. A relic from the Dark Ages. Sir, Jay said. It is likely just a mining ship that got lost. Or a scavenger looking for parts in the asteroid belt. It is drifting towards our position, May added. It just adjusted its course. Ken looked at the little ship. It was so small compared to the Vengeance. The Vengeance was 10 miles long. The little ship was maybe the size of a shuttle. It looked like a fly next to a mountain. It is a nuisance, Ken said. He turned his back to the screen. We are preparing for a planetary invasion. I do not care about a rusty scrap of metal. Shall I send a fighter to destroy it? Jay asked. It will take 2 seconds. Ken waved his hand. No. Do not waste the energy. Do not waste a missile. Ignore it. It is nothing. But sir, May said. It is coming closer. Let it come, Ken said harshly. Look at it, Lieutenant. It has no weapons. It has no shields. What can it do to us? It is a speck of dust in a hurricane. If it gets too close, our gravitational pull will crush it. May looked at the screen again. The little ship was moving slowly. It did not look fast. It did not look dangerous. But she could not shake the feeling of unease. Yes, sir, she said quietly. Return to your station, Ken ordered. And do not bother me again unless you see an enemy fleet. Yes, sir. May walked back to her station. Ben was still there, drinking his water. Well, Ben asked. What did they say? They are ignoring it, May said. They think it is garbage. Probably is, Ben said with a shrug. The Admiral is right. Look at the fleet. We have enough power to turn that planet into dust. That little ship is nothing. May sat down. She looked at the red dot on her screen. The little ship was still moving. It was picking up speed slightly. I know, May said. But why do I feel like we are making a mistake? You worry too much, May, Ben laughed. He patted her on the shoulder. We are the hegemony. We are the best. Nothing can hurt us. May looked at the screen one more time. The little ship was now clear of the asteroids. It was in open space. It was heading straight for the Vengeance. On the bridge of the Vengeance, the lights dimmed slightly as the ship prepared its main weapons. The hum of the engines grew louder. Admiral Ken watched the blue planet. He thought about his reward. He thought about the promotion he would get. He did not think about the little ship. He did not think about the humans. He did not know that the human ship was not carrying torpedoes. He did not know that the human ship was carrying a weapon far worse. On the sensor screen, the red dot blinked. It was steady. It was waiting. 10 minutes to bombardment, Commander J announced. The crew went back to work. The bridge was silent again. But the silence felt heavy. Somewhere in the dark, the humans were watching. And they were ready. May watched the screen. She saw the little ship glow. It was not a weapons glow. It was something else. Sir, she whispered, but no one heard her. The countdown began. The fate of the planet hung in the balance. And the only thing standing between the hegemony and total victory was a rusty old ship. May held her breath. The little ship stopped drifting. It hung in the dark space. It looked like a dormant metal box. But inside that box, something was waking up. The humans had arrived. And they were not afraid. Inside the small, gray ship, the air was warm. It smelled like old coffee and burning dust. This ship was called the Atlas. It was not a beautiful ship. The floor was made of metal grates. The walls were covered in wires and pipes. Some of the wires were held together with silver tape. It was a messy ship, but it was a home to the people inside. Captain Roy sat in the big chair in the middle of the room. He was a man with gray hair and a wrinkled face. He wore a blue jacket with a patch on the shoulder. The patch had a picture of a planet on it. He had his feet up on the control panel. In his right hand, he held a white mug. Steam rose from the hot coffee inside. He took a slow drink and sighed. "Is it time yet?" Roy asked. He looked to his left. Sitting at a small desk was Ensign Lisa. She was young, with dark hair tied back in a ponytail. She wore a large headset over her ears. She was typing very fast on a keyboard. There were 3 screens in front of her. They showed green lines and numbers. "Almost, Cap," Lisa said. She did not look up. "The big ship is turning. They are aiming at the planet." Roy took another sip of coffee. "They are rude. They did not even say hello." "They are aliens, Cap," Lisa said. "They probably do not speak English. They just like to shoot things." Roy put his feet down on the floor. He leaned forward. "Lisa, can you see their faces?" "I can hack their camera feed," Lisa said. She pressed a button. One of her screens changed. It showed the inside of the alien ship. It was a big room with a high ceiling. There was an alien man standing on a platform. He looked very serious. "That is the boss," Roy said. "He looks like he is in a bad mood." "He is the Admiral," Lisa said. "His name is Ken, I think. He just ordered the attack." Roy shook his head. "Sad. They have a nice planet, and they just want to break it." "What do we do?" Cap Lisa asked. She stopped typing and looked at him. "We are one ship. They have thousands. Do we run?" Roy laughed. It was a deep, loud laugh. "Run? No, Lisa. We are humans. We do not run when people are being bullied. We stay. We make noise." Lisa smiled. She liked Captain Roy. He was not like the captains in the movies. He did not yell. He was calm. He was like a grandpa who knew how to fix cars. But he was also brave. He had fought in many battles. "So, we use the special weapon?" Lisa asked. "Yes," Roy said. "Get the machine ready." "The one we built in the engine room?" "The screamer?" Lisa asked. "That is the one," Roy said. "But let's be polite. Maybe if we talk to them, they will go away." "Do you think they will listen?" Lisa asked. "No," Roy said. "But we have to try. It is the rules." "Open a channel." Lisa pressed a yellow button on her console. A small light turned red. "Channel open, Cap." "Go ahead." Roy cleared his throat. He pressed a button on his chair to speak to the alien ship. He did not shout. He spoke clearly, like a teacher in a classroom. "Hello there," Roy said into the microphone. "This is Captain Roy of the human ship Atlas. You are pointing guns at a peaceful planet. That is not nice. Please turn your ships around and go home. We do not want to fight today. Have a good day." Roy let go of the button. He looked at Lisa. "Did they hear me?" Lisa listened to her headset. She made a funny face. "I hear a response. The tactical officer, Jay, is talking." "What is he saying?" Lisa listened for a moment. He says we are garbage. He says we are floating debris. He told the Admiral to ignore us." Roy raised his eyebrows. "Garbage? That hurts my feelings. I washed this ship last week." "They are locking weapons on us, Cap," Lisa said. Her voice was calm, but she typed faster. "I see missile locks. 12 of them." "Okay," Roy said. "They do not want to talk. That is a shame." What is the plan? Roy stood up. He stretched his arms. We cannot shoot them, Lisa. Our guns are too small. We would scratch their paint, and they would get angry. We have to break their toys another way. Is the screamer ready? Yes, cap power is at 100%. Roy walked to the back of the bridge. He opened a small metal box on the wall. Inside the box was a red lever. It looked like the lever for a train track. It was rusty and old. Listen, Lisa, Roy said. You know how this works? Yes, she said. We broadcast the signal. It goes through their comms. It goes into their brains. Right, Roy said. It is not a gun. It is a feeling. We are going to give them a very bad headache. A very, very big headache. On the alien ship, the Vengeance, Lieutenant May was still watching her screen. She felt sweat on her forehead. The human ship was getting closer. It was not shooting. It was just moving. Admiral, May said again. She could not stay quiet. The human ship is sending a message. Commander J laughed. A message? What is it? Do they want to surrender? No, May said. I cannot translate it all. But it was polite. They asked us to leave. Admiral Ken turned around. His face was angry. They asked us to leave. A ship of scrap metal tells the hegemony what to do. Yes, sir, May said. But enough, Ken said. Target that ship. Destroy it. I want to see it turn to dust before we bombard the planet. Targeting locked, Jay said with a smile. Firing in 3, 2. Inside the Atlas, Roy watched the screen. He saw the red lights of the alien missiles. They are shooting, Cap, Lisa said. Impact in 10 seconds. Roy grabbed the red lever. He did not look scared. He looked like he was about to start a lawnmower. Here we go, Roy said. Time to wake them up. Bracing. Lisa said. She grabbed her seat belt. Roy pulled the lever down. For a second, nothing happened. The ship did not move. The missiles did not stop. The missiles flew closer and closer to the Atlas. They were going to hit. But then, the machine in the engine room roared to life. It was not a loud roar. It was a strange hum. The air inside the bridge vibrated. Roy's coffee mug rippled. The sound was not heard by ears. It was felt in the bones. On the outside of the Atlas, a dish opened on the top of the ship. It was a satellite dish. It glowed with a faint blue light. Then, a wave of invisible energy shot out from the ship. It moved fast. It moved faster than light. It hit the alien missiles first. The missiles did not explode. They just stopped working. Their electronics died. They became rocks floating in space. Then, the wave hit the Vengeance. It went through the metal hull like it was not even there. It went through the shields. It went into the computers and the radios. And most importantly, it went into the ears and the brains of the aliens. Lieutenant May was the first to feel it. She was looking at her screen. Suddenly, a sharp pain went through her head. It felt like an ice pick. She gasped and grabbed her head. Ow! She cried out. Commander J was standing next to the hologram table. He was laughing at the humans. Then, he stopped laughing. He felt a cold feeling in his stomach. It was a feeling he had never felt before. It was fear. But it was not normal fear. It was panic. It was the feeling you get when you fall off a high ladder. It was the feeling of being trapped in a dark closet. "What is this?" Jay yelled. He stepped back. The air on the bridge seemed to change. It felt heavy. The lights flickered. Admiral Ken felt it too. He tried to breathe, but the air felt like water. He looked at the screen. The picture of the human ship looked like it was mocking him. "Report!" Ken shouted. But his voice shook. Inside the Atlas, Roy watched the readings. "Signal is strong," Lisa said. "We are connected. We are inside their network." "Good," Roy said. "Turn up the volume. Let them feel it." The machine hummed louder. The invisible wave changed. It was not just a noise anymore. It carried data. It carried emotions. It carried the human imagination. It was a weapon called the dirge. It was designed to scare species that did not have feelings. It was designed to make logical creatures feel chaos. On the Vengeance, the crew began to scream. It started with one person, then 10, then 100. May was shaking. Her mind was filled with pictures. She saw a wolf with red eyes. She saw a deep ocean with monsters in it. She saw herself falling into a black hole. These were not her thoughts. They were being beamed into her head. "Make it stop!" May screamed. She fell to the floor. Commander J was hitting his own console. "I cannot see. The screen is bleeding." He was hallucinating. He saw blood dripping from the ceiling. Admiral Ken held onto the railing. He looked at his hands. They were shaking. "It is a trick," he told himself. "It is a weapon." But he could not stop the fear. His heart beat so fast it hurt. He felt like a small child who lost his mother in a crowd. He felt alone. The alien fleet was in chaos. The ships that were linked to the Vengeance felt it too. The pilots in the fighters passed out. The navigators on the cruisers got sick. The great hegemony fleet, the strongest in the galaxy, was frozen in terror. Roy watched the main screen. He saw the alien ships stop. He saw them drifting. "Did we win?" Cap Lisa asked. Roy took a sip of his coffee. It was still warm. "Not yet, Lisa. We just got their attention. Now, we keep the pressure on. Hold the signal steady." "Yes, Cap." Holding. The Atlas floated in the dark space. The little ship looked weak and rusty. But it was the most dangerous thing in the star system. The humans had arrived, and they had brought the chaos with them. The aliens were not ready for it. They were never ready for humanity. The bridge of the Vengeance was no longer a place of order. It was a place of madness. The cold silence was gone. In its place was the sound of fear. It was a low rumble of many voices crying out at once. It was the sound of people losing their minds. Lieutenant May lay on the cold metal floor. She curled her body into a tight ball. Her hands pressed against her ears, but it did not help. The noise was not coming from the room. It was coming from inside her own head. It was a loud buzzing sound, like a million angry bees. Under the buzzing, there were whispers. Dark, scary whispers that she could not quite understand. She squeezed her eyes shut. She tried to think of math. She tried to think of numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4. But the numbers turned into snakes in her mind. They hissed at her. "Get up," a voice said in her head. It was not her voice. It sounded like a monster. "You are going to fall." May gasped for air. She felt dizzy. The floor felt like it was tilting. She felt like she was sliding down a steep hill, even though she was lying still. Across the room, Commander J was on his knees. The strong, proud officer was gone. He looked like a frightened child. He stared at the main hologram table. Usually, it showed maps of stars. But now, Jay was seeing something else. The human signal was mixing with the ship's computer. It was changing the pictures on the screen. Jay saw a face looking at him from the hologram. It was a human face. It had scars and one eye was missing. It was smiling a terrible smile. "Stay away," Jay whispered. He waved his hands in the air. He tried to push the face away, but his hands went right through the light. "I command you. Stop." The face laughed. The laugh echoed in Jay's mind. It was a sound of pure mockery. Jay felt a deep shame. He felt like he was naked in the snow. He felt weak. He had always been strong. He had always been the hunter. But now, he was the prey. At the back of the bridge, Ensign Ben was hiding under his desk. He was rocking back and forth. He was talking to himself, but the words made no sense. "The sky is falling," Ben mumbled. "The walls are melting. The coffee is hot. The stars are eyes." The chaos was not just on the bridge. It was everywhere in the fleet. The hegemony ships were linked together. They shared information and power. The human weapon used this link against them. The signal jumped from one ship to the next. It traveled down the cables and into the brains of every alien. Outside the Vengeance, the space around the planet was filled with ships. But they were not flying anymore. The Great Fleet was drifting. The small fighter ships were spinning in circles. Some of them flew into each other. There were silent explosions as metal hit metal. The pilots were asleep or screaming. They were not flying the ships. The ships were driving themselves, and they were doing a bad job. A large cruiser, the Krell, was flying next to a supply ship. Usually, they flew in perfect formation. But the Krell suddenly turned to the left. It scraped the side of the supply ship. Sparks flew into the vacuum of space. Both ships groaned as their hulls crumpled. They began to drift away from each other, damaged and broken. It was a traffic jam of destruction. The strongest armada in history was destroying itself without firing a single shot. Admiral Ken was the only one still standing. He held onto the railing so hard that his knuckles turned white. He felt the fear too. He felt the cold hand of panic gripping his heart. His heart beat so fast he thought it would explode. His stomach turned over and over. He wanted to scream. He wanted to run away. But he was the admiral. He had a duty. "Stop it!" Ken yelled. His voice cracked. He looked around the room. His crew was useless. "Fight it? It is a trick. It is just noise." He closed his eyes. He tried to find his calm center. The Krellorian people were logical. They were better than emotions. They had evolved past fear. He told himself this over and over. "I am not afraid," he thought. "I am Ken. I am the leader." But then, a new image flashed in his mind. He saw his own home. He saw the city where he was born. He saw it on fire. He saw his family running. He saw a giant shadow falling from the sky. It was the end of the world. Ken's eyes opened wide. The image was so real. He could smell the smoke. He could hear the crying. Was it real? Was his home burning right now? A report Ken shouted to no one. He looked at Lieutenant May on the floor. She could not answer him. He looked at Jay. Jay was fighting with the hologram table. He was punching the lights. Ken realized he was alone. He stumbled toward the tactical console. He needed to stop the signal. He needed to find the source. He pushed May's legs out of the way and sat in her chair. He looked at the screens. They were all red and flashing warnings. Danger! Danger! Hull breach! System failure! No, Ken said. He typed on the keyboard. Show me the enemy ship. The screen flickered. It showed the little gray ship, the Atlas. It was still there. It was still drifting. It looked so small. It looked so harmless. How? Ken asked. How are you doing this? He saw a line of energy connecting the Atlas to his ship. It was the signal. It was the weapon. It was a cable made of fear. Inside the Atlas, Lisa was watching the data stream. Cap, she said. Their vitals are going crazy. Their heart rates are 200% above normal. Captain Roy sat in his chair, watching the chaos on the main viewer. He saw the big ships crashing into each other. He saw explosions. Are they giving up? Roy asked. No, Lisa said. The flagship is still active. The Admiral is trying to fight it. He is very strong, Cap. The signal is not working on him as well as the others. Roy nodded. I see. He has a hard head. What should we do? Roy leaned forward. Turn it up, Lisa. Amplify the signal. Let's give him a nightmare he will never forget. Lisa pushed a slider up on her screen. The hum of the machine grew louder. The lights in the Atlas dimmed as the power went to the weapon. On the Vengeance, the air suddenly felt heavier. The pressure in the room dropped. Admiral Ken felt a pressure in his ears, like he was deep underwater. Then, the hallucinations got worse. Ken looked at his hands. They were changing. His skin was turning gray and rotting. He watched in horror as his fingers fell off, one by one. They turned to dust. Stop! Ken screamed. He pulled his hands close to his chest. But they were fine. When he looked again, they were normal. Get out of my head! He yelled at the screen. He looked up at the view of the stars. But the stars were gone. The sky was replaced by a giant eye. A giant human eye. It was blue and bloodshot. It was staring right at him. It blinked. The eye saw everything. It saw his secrets. It saw his fears. It saw that he was a small, scared creature pretending to be a god. Ken could not take it anymore. The logic was gone. The discipline was gone. There was only the terror. He felt small. He felt like an ant under a boot. He felt the weight of humanity pressing down on him. It was heavy. It was messy. It was chaotic. It was too much for his ordered mind to handle. Ken let go of the console. He slumped forward. His head hit the keyboard. He was trembling all over. The Admiral had broken. On the bridge, no one was standing. The entire command crew of the Vengeance was on the floor. The ship was silent now, except for the crying of the crew. The Vengeance began to drift. Its engines sputtered and died. The lights flickered and turned red. The great ship was dead in the water. Lisa looked at her screen. Cap, I am reading engine failures across the fleet. They have no power. Their pilots are unconscious. Roy took a sip of his coffee. It was cold now, but he did not mind. "Good work, Lisa," Roy said. "Cut the main weapon. Keep the link open for transmission." Lisa pulled the lever back down. The hum stopped. The blue light on the dish faded. In the sudden quiet, Roy stared at the giant alien fleet. They were just drifting rocks now. "Okay," Roy said. "Now that we have their attention, let's tell them the rules." The silence that followed was heavy and deep. It was not a peaceful silence. It was the silence of a graveyard. On the bridge of the Vengeance, the humming of the computers had stopped. The low buzz of the engines was gone. The air recyclers were the only things making noise, blowing cold air onto the unconscious bodies of the crew. Lieutenant May lay on the hard floor. Her breathing was slow and shallow. She was curled up in a tight ball, her hands still covering her ears. The loud buzzing noise in her head had faded away, but the feeling of fear was still stuck in her chest. It felt like a heavy rock sitting on her lungs. Every time she took a breath, she smelled smoke and burning metal, even though the ship was fine. Slowly, very slowly, May opened her eyes. The bright lights of the bridge hurt her head, so she squinted. The ceiling above her looked blurry. She tried to remember where she was. She tried to remember her name. "I am May," she whispered to herself. Her voice sounded weak and small. I was scanning. The memory came back to her in a rush. The red dot. The little ship. The admiral saying it was garbage. Then the pain. The terrible pain. She sat up. Her body felt sore, like she had run 100 miles. She looked around the room. The scene was terrible. Commander J was near the tactical table. He was lying face down. He was not moving. May felt a spike of fear. Was he dead? She crawled over to him, her knees shaking on the metal grate. She reached out and touched his shoulder. "Commander," she said softly. Jay groaned. It was a low, animal sound. He lifted his head slowly. His eyes were wide and red. His hair was messy with sweat. He looked like he had aged 10 years in 10 minutes. He looked at May, but he did not seem to know who she was. It was dark," Jay mumbled. "The walls, they were bleeding." "You are okay, Commander," May said, trying to sound calm, even though she was terrified. "The attack is over." Jay looked at his hands. He turned them over and over, staring at his palms. "I thought I lost my fingers," he whispered. "They fell off." "No, sir," May said. "You are fine. We need to get up." May helped Jay sit up. He leaned back against the leg of the tactical table. He put his head in his hands. He was shaking. The strong, ruthless officer was broken. He looked lost. He looked like a child who woke up from a nightmare and did not know where he was. May looked toward the front of the bridge. The admiral's chair was empty. She looked down and saw Admiral Ken lying near the main console. He was not moving. Panic shot through her. "Admiral!" May cried out. She scrambled to her feet and ran to him. She fell to her knees beside him. She felt for a pulse on his neck. It was there, beating fast and wild. "Admiral Ken, can you hear me?" She gently tapped his face. Ken's eyes fluttered open. They were unfocused at first, staring at the ceiling. Then, they snapped to May's face. For a second, he looked angry. Then, he looked scared. He grabbed May's wrist with a grip that was surprisingly strong. "The eye," Ken gasped. "Did you see the eye?" No, sir, May said gently. There is no I. It was a hallucination. It was the weapon. Ken let go of her wrist. He struggled to sit up. May had to help him. He leaned back against the console, breathing hard. He looked around his bridge. It was a mess. Data pads were on the floor. Coffee had spilled on a keyboard. Sparks fell from a light fixture in the ceiling. Report, Ken croaked. His voice was raspy. Status is critical, sir, May said, looking at her wrist computer. She tried to access the ship's systems, but the connection was slow. Main engines are offline. Life support is running on emergency power. Weapons are offline. Ken closed his eyes. He took a deep breath. And the fleet. May looked at the large main screen at the front of the room. The view of space was dark. She could see the blue planet below, but the ships were drifting. They are disabled, sir, May said. I am reading no power signatures from the cruisers. The fighters, many of them have crashed. Ken turned his head to look at the screen. He saw the damage. He saw his beautiful fleet, the pride of the hegemony, floating like junk in space. Two large destroyers were colliding slowly, scraping against each other. It was a disaster. How? Ken asked. How did they do this? We did not even fire a shot. We thought they were weak, May said softly. We were wrong. Ken pushed himself up to a standing position. He swayed a little, but he steadied himself. He was the admiral. He had to stand. He looked at the small image of the human ship on his monitor. It was still there. It was just sitting there, watching them. They are not using guns, Ken said, his voice gaining a little strength. They are using fear. They are attacking our minds. Jay crawled over to them. He looked up at Ken. Sir, we cannot fight this. We cannot shoot a ghost. Ken looked down at his tactical officer. He felt a wave of disgust, but also pity. Jay was broken by the experience. Ken had to be the one to fix this. He had to think. We have to disconnect, Ken said. Sever the neural link. If we are connected, they can hurt us again. Isolate the ship. I will try, sir, May said. She typed on the Admiral's console. It was hard because the system was lagging. I am shutting down the network. We will be blind and deaf, but we will be safe. Do it, Ken ordered. May pressed the final key. The screens on the bridge flickered and went black for a second. Then, they came back on, but with basic information only. The constant flow of data from the fleet was gone. The Vengeance was alone. Ken felt a little better. The pressure in his head eased. He felt more like himself, but the memory of the terror was still fresh. He knew he would never forget the feeling of that giant eye staring at him. Status of the enemy, Ken asked. They are holding position, May said. They are not attacking. They are just watching. Suddenly, a light flashed on the communication panel. It was a yellow light. It meant an incoming message. May froze. She looked at Ken with wide eyes. Sir, they are hailing us. Ken stared at the light. It felt like it was burning his eyes. A part of him wanted to run away. A part of him wanted to hide under the console like Jay. But he was the leader of the hegemony. He could not hide. Open the channel, Ken said. Audio only. May's hand shook as she pressed the button. A crackle of static filled the room. Then, a voice came through the speakers. It was a human voice. It was not a monster voice. It was not a shout. It was calm. It sounded like an older man. He sounded tired, but friendly. "Hello," the voice said. "Is this thing on? Can you hear me?" Ken swallowed hard. He gripped the edge of the console until his knuckles turned white. "I am Admiral Ken of the Vengeance," he said. His voice sounded stiff. "Who speaks?" "This is Captain Roy," the voice said. "From the Atlas. Look, I just wanted to check in on you guys. You went quiet for a minute there. Everyone okay?" Ken could not believe what he was hearing. The man sounded like a neighbor checking on a borrowed tool. You attacked us," Ken said. "You used a weapon on our minds." "Oh, that," Roy said. "Yeah. Sorry about that. We told you to leave, but you didn't listen. You were about to blow up that planet. We couldn't let you do that. That wouldn't be very nice." Ken felt a surge of anger. "You crippled a fleet of 3,000 ships. You violated the laws of war." "Hey, we didn't fire a single shot," Roy said. "You guys crashed into each other. That was on you. We just showed you a scary movie. It's all in your head, buddy." Ken's face turned red with humiliation. Being spoken to like this by a primitive species was worse than the defeat. "What do you want?" Ken asked through gritted teeth. "Nothing," Roy said. "We just want you to go away. Leave that planet alone. Go back to your space and stay there. And if we refuse..." Roy sighed. The sound came through the speakers clearly. "We really don't want to turn the machine back on, Admiral. My crew gets headaches when we run it at full power. And honestly, you guys looked like you were having a really bad time. Do you really want to go back to that?" Ken looked at Jay, who was rocking back and forth on the floor. He looked at the damage reports scrolling on the screen. He remembered the fear. The absolute, paralyzing fear. He knew they could not fight. They could not win against an enemy that could reach inside their minds. The hegemony was strong in body, but weak in spirit. The humans were the opposite. "We will withdraw," Ken said quietly. "Good choice," Roy said. "Smart. I like smart people." Ken waited for Roy to say more, to threaten them, or to demand money. But Roy didn't. "Okay then," Roy said. "We are going to head out. Have a safe trip home. And maybe work on your fear management. You guys are way too stressed out." The channel clicked closed. The bridge was silent again. Ken stood there for a long time. He looked out the viewport at the stars. They seemed colder now. He realized that the galaxy was not as simple as he thought. They were not alone, and they were not the strongest. Admiral May said softly. "What are our orders?" Ken took a deep breath. He fixed his uniform. He stood up straight. "Order the fleet to restart engines," Ken said. "We are leaving." "And the planet, sir?" "We leave it," Ken said. "It belongs to the monsters now." He looked one last time at the small gray ship on the screen. The Atlas was already turning around. It was slow and clumsy. But to Ken, it was the most terrifying thing he had ever seen. The Vengeance slowly began to turn, pointing its nose away from the blue planet. The other ships, one by one, began to follow. They were limping away, defeated by a feeling. The blue and green planet turned slowly in the dark window of the Atlas. It was a beautiful world. The white clouds swirled over the deep oceans. Down there, millions of people were sleeping. They were eating dinner. They were living their lives. They had no idea that a huge alien fleet was hovering above their heads just a few minutes ago. They did not know that they were almost destroyed. Captain Roy stood in front of the window. He watched the planet with a soft smile on his face. He held his coffee mug in both hands. It was empty now, but he held onto it anyway. "Look at that, Lisa," Roy said quietly. "They are safe." Ensign Lisa sat at her desk behind him. She was typing on her keyboard, closing the open files. She stopped typing and spun her chair around to look at the window. "It is a nice planet," Lisa said. "It looks a lot like Earth. But the continents are different shapes." "Yeah," Roy said. "It reminds me of home. It is a good thing we came this way." Lisa looked at the sensor screen. The red dots that represented the enemy fleet were moving away. They were leaving the star system. They were heading back into the deep dark space. "They are going fast," Lisa said. "They are really running away." "They are scared," Roy said. "And they should be. They learned a hard lesson today." Roy turned away from the window and walked back to the center of the bridge. He sat down in his chair. It creaked under his weight. He put his feet up on the console. The adrenaline of the battle was fading away, replaced by a tired feeling in his bones. "Is the machine turned off?" Roy asked. "Yes, Cap," Lisa said. "The screamer is cooling down. I turned the power down to standby mode. We are not broadcasting anything anymore." "Good," Roy said. "My head was starting to hurt too." "That thing is loud even for us." Cap, Lisa asked. She sounded curious. "What is it, Lisa? Do you think they will come back?" Roy rubbed his chin. He thought about Admiral Ken. He thought about the fear in the alien's voice. "I don't think so. I think they are going to go home and tell everyone a scary story about humans. They will say that we are crazy. They will say that we are magic. They will stay far away from us for a long time." Lisa smiled. "Good. Let them be scared. We are not mean, but we are not weak either." "That is right," Roy said. "We are the guards. We don't look for trouble, but when trouble finds us, we finish it." On the alien flagship, the Vengeance, the mood was very different. The ship was dark. Only the emergency lights were on, casting long, scary shadows on the walls. The smell of ozone was gone, replaced by the smell of sweat and fear. Admiral Ken sat in his chair. He was not standing at the window anymore. He was slumped in his seat, staring at the blank floor. He looked tired. His eyes were red. He looked like he had not slept in a week. The bridge was quiet, but it was not a peaceful silence. It was the silence of shock. The crew members who were awake moved slowly. They did not talk to each other. They did not look at each other. They were afraid. Commander J sat on the floor near the tactical map. He had a blanket wrapped around his shoulders. He was shivering, even though the temperature in the room was normal. He was rocking back and forth. His eyes were open, but he was not seeing the room. He was still seeing the nightmares. Lieutenant May was at her station. She was trying to work. Her hands shook as she typed on the keyboard. She was checking the ship's systems. She wanted to keep busy. She wanted to think about numbers and engines, so she would not think about the fear. "Report," Ken said. His voice was flat. It had no energy in it. May jumped slightly at the sound of his voice. "Sir," she said. "Engines are at 50% power. We have enough power to leave the system. The fleet is forming up behind us. They are following us. And the humans Ken asked. He did not want to look at the screen. The Atlas is still near the planet, May said. They are not following us. They are just watching. Ken nodded slowly. They are letting us go. Yes, sir. Ken let out a long, sad sigh. Why did they not destroy us? We were helpless. They could have blown us apart. May stopped typing. She thought about the human captain's voice. He had sounded so casual. I do not think they wanted to destroy us, sir. I think they just wanted us to stop. They humiliated us, Ken whispered. He clenched his fist. We are the hegemony. We are the strongest power in the galaxy. And one little ship defeated us with a hallucination. Jay looked up from the floor. It wasn't just a hallucination, sir, Jay mumbled. It was the truth. It showed us how small we are. Ken looked at Jay. He saw the broken man. He realized that Jay was right. The weapon had shown them their own fears. It had shown them that they were not as tough as they thought they were. Helm, Ken said loudly. Set a course for home. Maximum speed. Yes, Admiral, the helmsman said. The voice was shaky. The Vengeance began to move. It turned its huge nose away from the blue planet. It turned away from the human ship. It accelerated into the dark space. One by one, the other ships in the fleet followed. They were a sad parade of metal giants, running away from a small mouse. Back on the Atlas, Lisa watched the red dots disappear. They are gone, Cap, Lisa said. The last ship just went into hyperspeed. Roy took his feet down from the console. Good. It is over. Should we go down to the planet? Lisa asked. I bet they would like to thank us. They probably don't even know what happened. Roy shook his head. No. We don't need a parade. We don't need medals. We did our job. Besides, if we land, we might scare them. They probably have never seen a spaceship like ours. They might think we are the bad guys. So, where do we go now? Roy stood up and stretched his back. We have a report to write. Command is going to want to know why we are late delivering our supplies. Lisa laughed. I can see the report now. Sorry we are late. We stopped to fight an entire alien armada with our brain waves. Roy chuckled. Something like that. He walked to the back of the bridge and opened a locker. He took out a bottle of pills. He shook 2 pills into his hand and swallowed them dry. What are those? Lisa asked. For my back, Roy said. Sitting in this chair kills me. Lisa smiled. She looked at the screen one last time. The blue planet looked peaceful. The stars were bright. Cap, she asked again. Do you think we will see them again, the aliens? Roy looked at the stars. He thought about the vast galaxy. There were thousands of stars. There were thousands of planets. And there were probably thousands of bad guys out there. I don't know, Lisa, Roy said. Maybe. But let them come. We are humans. We have big brains. We have loud voices, and we don't give up. He walked back to his chair and sat down. Set a course for the next waypoint. Let's go home. Yes, Cap, Lisa said. She typed in the commands. The Atlas turned away from the planet. The little rusty ship engaged its engines. It moved slowly, picking up speed. It was not as fast as the alien ships, but it was steady. It vanished into the darkness of space, just another speck of dust in the universe. But the galaxy knew something now. They knew that the humans were not just soft creatures. They knew that under the simple clothes and the rusty ships, there was a power that could not be calculated by computers. There was a spirit that could not be broken. The Vengeance and the Hegemony fleet ran for home. They would tell stories for years about the day the sky screamed. They would warn other races about the humans. They would say, "Do not go there. Do not wake them up." And far away, on a small blue planet, the people woke up in the morning. They saw the sun rise. They drank their coffee. They went to work. They did not know that they were alive because of Captain Roy and Ensign Lisa. They did not know that they were safe because the universe had learned a simple lesson: you should never underestimate a human. Even when they are small, they are very, very loud.